Hi there. Welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. Today's topic, what skills are essential for a successful leader? Takeaways that I want you to consider as we dive into today's session include rethinking whom can be a leader at your organization, key leadership traits to look for and develop, and committing to talking about leadership at your organization on a regular basis. Before we dive in, let me do a little more introductions for those of you new to the podcast. I'm Kari Anderson, principal with Incite Consulting. I've spent 25 plus years in the nonprofit sector in leadership roles with 7 organizations in both Washington State and Colorado. I now provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits like yours have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit execs need a space to gather, to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages them, and hopefully you, to stay the course. It doesn't seem to matter if you're in a village of 182, like I am right now, or a metropolis of millions. Nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, smirk, and get excited again about the important work that you do. So, as I mentioned, today's topics are specifically have to do with what skills are essential for a successful leader, and ideally, your case as a leader with your organization. Leadership is such a big topic, and there are so many ways to dig in and learn more. Today, I want to spend a little more time talking about what skills to look for when hiring and what skills to look for among your current team, whether that's staff or volunteers, to help identify future leaders for your organization. Fostering their growth and development is an efficient way to help build sustainability for your organization because, as I've mentioned before on this podcast, we all leave at some point in time. And it's critical for the sustainability of your organization to ensure that we're developing that bench strength to succeed you in your role as the executive director. So, over the past few years, we've certainly seen such turmoil and unexpected events throughout our world that continue to shape and alter how we do business. I think back to when I started in 1989 versus how I lead now, and most certainly there have been catastrophic and cataclysmic changes. I think through the events that we've seen recently, we've recognized the importance of leadership and particularly how leaders help us navigate change and remain resilient, how we remain focused and strong in challenging times. Um, I've always believed that in the nonprofit sector in particular, that we're all about relationships. We work with human capital. And in order to be successful, we have to be able to build strong connections with people, the people we're serving, the people we partner with, the donors, volunteers, board members, and staff. So I think talking point number 1 today, I want you to think about if you've ever been in an interview position and you've interviewed someone who wasn't necessarily the most qualified in terms of previous experience, but you knew they had the personality and the ability to learn. I believe that there are certain skills that can indicate a dedicated employee and a future leader, and that can be even more powerful than someone with the exact match in terms of previous experiences. I certainly am a beneficiary of that nod, if you will. When I first started in the sector, I had zeal, probably some impatience. I certainly had a work ethic, but I did not know anything about the sector. I was fresh out of college and didn't really realize that the third sector was such an important business driver in the United States. The interviewing entity in this question, the board at Lutheran Community Services in Tacoma, Washington, recognized that I was a diamond in the rough, if you will, and with appropriate professional development and training that I could burgeon into the type of leader they wanted for that organization at that juncture. Um, also want to share an example of a dear friend and mentor of mine. Her first development job was because she met the VP of this particular organization at the YMCA caring for her kids. They built a relationship at after school pickup. And after several months, that VP mentioned that she thought my friend had the personality and ability to learn the skills for the role. It was a great success for her. And I know my friend has always respected that approach. She was thinking out of the box and it was successful. I mentioned both of these examples right now because most organizations I work with, both for profit and nonprofit, are really struggling hiring staff. And if we're able to look outside of just the job requirements and look towards innate skills and aptitudes, we can train for the position, but we cannot train work ethic and we can't train those innate soft skills that people really need to be having as they come to your door. We can develop the hard skills. We're certainly recognizing, the need for the future enhancement or further enhancement of soft skills and the value that leaders bring to the table when we can successfully connect, interact, and respect people of varying backgrounds. So again, I would encourage you to be thinking about whom in your circle may not necessarily have those hard skills, but the soft skills, and particularly those folks that are on your team right now. We can develop those hard skills. I want to dig specifically today into a different topic, right? But that also connects with this particular item of leadership skills. And that's actually the key leadership skills that the sector has identified that we really need to have on board, either currently or we need to be looking for in future staff and volunteers. Certainly, I think it starts with vision. A leader can envision what the future looks like and inspires others to see the possibilities as well. Good leaders have a clear and concise goal that they're working towards and communicate that clearly. This can occur at all levels within the organization on varying scales. Another key attribute of a leader is an active listener. Actively listening, asking clarifying questions. This is a learned skill and takes practice. And I will tell you, I have not always been an active listener. One of my former bosses always used to tell me that it was very clear to him that I was listening with intent to reply, not actually listening to the crux of the conversation. As I mentioned, it's a learned skill and takes practice, and I still have to practice it every day. Certainly, when your employees feel heard, it goes a long way in building trust and team rapport. Another key leadership attribute, the ability to be compassionate and have empathy. Relating to people through compassion and understanding is increasingly important. With so much focus on work life balance, employees are seeking a work environment that supports them as human, as a human, professionally and personally. Being vulnerable and expressing your own concerns makes you relatable and someone others are inspired to follow. I know some leaders and managers that I work with really struggle in terms of they want to set boundaries and they don't believe that they should show up as a person at work. And I would challenge you, if you're one of those, to rethink that, right? We need you to show up as a person. It doesn't mean you have to spill all of your secrets to those that you work with, whether they're board members or staff. But it absolutely does mean that, extending the vulnerability branch and being able to share what else is going on in your life is going to absolutely build roads for you and for your staff. Another key leadership attribute is commitment. Leaders are committed to the organization they serve and the mission they're working towards. They're passionate and they inspire others. Another attribute in terms of a leader, you're approachable. Leaders have an open door policy, and that does not mean it's open all the time, right? The premise is that we want you to be able to connect with your team members, and you can only do that if you're present, right? Present and approachable. I want you to think about, if you're working remotely, what does a virtual open door policy look like for you? And how can you ensure that those that work with you and for you feel like they can actually approach you to talk about problems, opportunities, areas where they need assistance? Another leadership attribute, you're motivational. Leaders rally the team, they get people excited to work together towards a common goal. Leaders are also self aware and they've got the ability to share the spotlight and value contributions from the entire team. Um, we're checking the ego at the door, right? It goes without saying that there's a myriad of leadership style and personality assessments out there that can be a valuable resource when you're building your team and building out your own leadership attributes. I like these particular tools for the insight they can provide about how you and how team members communicate, process information, etc. This can help leaders understand how to best interact with team members and be a way for building skills for interacting with others. There's lots of research about leadership styles, and we could certainly devote an entire podcast to this. But I wanted to touch on this briefly to say we each lead differently based on our own experiences and personalities. As you continue to grow, In your career, I would encourage you to take an assessment to understand your style and start paying attention to it. The big takeaway with leadership styles is trying to understand how you make decisions and adapt your approach based on a variety of factors, including your team, the situation, time and urgency, etc. The better you get at doing this, the more effective you'll become. And I'll leave you with this. When you're talking about leadership within your organization, I invite you to be cautious with the term, not because you're withholding it, but really thinking about the fact that leaders exist in every level within your organization. Recognizing and supporting the skills that indicate a leader can help employees to feel empowered and grow within your nonprofit organization. Supporting people at all levels and encouraging the skills that are needed to be an effective leader is your role as an executive director. As we wrap up today's episode, here's a reminder as to takeaways for you to consider as your homework. Rethinking whom could be a leader at your organization, regardless of title. Key leadership traits that you currently may possess, as well as those that you'd like to develop within yourselves and your team members, and committing to talking about leadership at your organization. Make sure to follow me on your favorite streaming platforms, including YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. For additional resources and tools, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com. Thanks for joining me today, and have a great week.